Welcome to the Magic Lighthouse Podcast. For those of us who are aware that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, the Magic Lighthouse is your mystical pit stop, your spiritual tune-up, your place to pause, reflect, and realign with the next phase of our journey. Join me, Violet Koncz, on this adventure to harmonize and amplify the light within ourselves and each other as we raise the consciousness of the planet, one conversation at a time. Thank you for being here and sharing your light with us. Enjoy. Donalee, thank you so much for joining me today on the Magic Lighthouse Podcast. It's really nice to finally make it happen. Like, we've kind of been talking about this for a while, so it's really cool to get together.
Yeah, I love the title of your podcast. Anything dealing with magic is right up my alley.
Yeah? What do you love about it?
Just that it invites me into the spiritual realm, because to me, magic is just bringing the invisible visible, or just believing in something you can't yet tangibly touch and see.
Before we dive into the juiciness of the conversation, I know you as a speaker, as you were on council, city council, right? Something like that. You're a parent. You are an author. I downloaded your SelfAwareness book on your website. And yeah, like, you're somebody who is, I'm listing all the things that I know that you do. You do coaching, you do, self-awareness programs, or you teach people self-awareness. So what else do you do? What are you up to right now in the world? Because you have a wide variety of things that you are talented in.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like it all wraps around the same area of life, which is our personal growth and development, right? It's becoming a better version of me day in and day out, and allowing myself to continually grow in my human experience and living it to its peak potential. 12 years ago, I went through 3 back surgeries, and the doctors didn't leave me with the best prognosis. And getting their thoughts out of my head took work, right? Replacing their story with my own story took a lot of time, energy, and effort for me. And I realized when we go through those points in life that they're meaningful and they're impactful. And for me, they showed up for a reason. This is my passion. This is my purpose. And this is what I help others manage and master. And I feel like life mastery, each one of us becoming a better version of ourselves and becoming more masterful at our journey. And to me, that's just the ability to become self-aware and to monitor and manage what we see, what we recognize, the triggers that show up, the emotions that come, right? The thoughts that come, and deciding if they're right for us. So I'm passionate about speaking on this topic first and foremost. And usually from my speaking engagements, I get additional speaking engagements and training workshops and clients that enroll in 8 weeks to greater self-awareness. And from there, they go into a mastermind group with me, and it's called Mastermind Magic.
Oh my goodness.
So much of, yeah. So when I said I love the word magic, I love it so much that I've incorporated it into my mastermind group. And I feel like in the, 100 years ago, women were burned at the stake for people thinking they were practicing magic. And in this day and age, we're allowed to speak about it. We're allowed to talk about it. And it isn't woo, and it isn't scary, and it isn't corrupt. It's actually us embracing our spiritual journey.
Yeah,
so
it's actually, it's popular now.
Yes. Yes. Lucky us, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what has your last year been like? So we're currently in February 2021. So we just, we're almost a year into the lockdowns and pandemics and all of this, since all that started. So how has this last year been for you inside of what you do and what you provide for the world?
Thank you. That's a really good question. A year ago, I was taking what I called a stroll through City Council. Our current mayor had reached out and invited me to look at an empty seat in City Council. The previous council member passed away, and there was a vacancy. And while I would have never in all my life said I'm going into government, in fact, that's probably one thing I said never to. So be careful what we say never to. We just don't know when things change. But I ended up saying yes, but then I did not win the election. So that stroll was about 6 months. I took the seat in January and then retired from it in July. And that's when the COVID hit. But I can honestly say it was so welcome. And I say that not in a mean or derogative way at all. But normally speaking, when we are creating change in our life, or we're trying to implement or bring in new habits or anything that we want to articulate a change in, we have to disrupt the old patterns. And to me, COVID was a disruptor that disrupted it for us. So that was sort of like a gift that now I feel really comfortable. When I help businesses create a new culture, we have to disrupt the old ways. And to me, this felt right at home. The disruption was already done for us. Now, what would you love? And it just became a comfortable place. I can be very honest and let you know that when June came and I did not win that election, I didn't have a plan B. I put my heart and soul into this as being the next move for me. So when it happened, I literally had to take a pause and say, what's next? Right? Because all the speaking positions I had got canceled in March. And I had March and April full, and then didn't pursue any more. Those were on my agenda to be working on, but I was getting so busy with learning my new seat in City Council and campaigning for reelection that my own business was lacking my attention, if that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so when this all changed, I was like, now what? Do I just go right back to where I was? And it felt like I couldn't do that. I felt like that stroll showed me so much. And I was brought there for a reason. And I saw that self-awareness was the greatest skill that everybody lacked. There were council members that had agendas and a bias, and some didn't get along with the new mayor, and they were voting against what he wanted because of that. And all the things you hear about politics, they were going on at the city level. And I got to see that. And I knew that I wasn't there to preach to them or to fix them. I was just there to model the right behavior. And so I realized after walking out of that position, retiring from that, that my focus changed just a little bit. And it was really all on what I call the prerequisite. And you know, when you get to college, you got to have this course before you can take that course, right? So I feel like the skill of self-awareness is the prerequisite to any other learning. Prior to that, I was bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion into businesses and getting some of those blank stares as to, you know, you're telling me I've got a bias? No, I'm not racist. And yet, if you don't have self-awareness, you can't see your own bias. And so it really was a gift for me. And I like to say life happens for us at all times. You know, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And that stroll through City Council was an eye opener. I also learned from there that in business, I really only need to be speaking to two big groups, and they're groups that serve HR professionals, because I really am steering towards business and business only as far as those that I reach out to. I obviously can coach and train and work with anybody, but I model myself and focus on just delivering to large groups of people that serve the HR professionals in business. They're the ones that hire and bring in the training and the education. So that was last year, and that's been going forward. Everything's been online up until now. The city I live in St. Charles, Missouri, and we're right outside St. Louis. St. Louis is still pretty locked down and limited on things, but St. Charles never had a full-on mask mandate. They suggested masks and let each business decide for themselves. So if you go to the gas station here, it's half and half. So that's kind of how our community is. We just opened our convention center in February, and we've already had 2 big events there. And I think there's another one this weekend. So big events are coming back now, and they're just starting to get scheduled. So I think by summer, we'll see a lot more of it.
Yeah.
But I'm really anxious to get back live. I love the energy and feel of being around other people.
Yes, especially as a reflector. So for some people who don't know human design, I kind of mention it here and there. But human design is kind of like, how would you describe human design in a nutshell?
I like to describe it as a blueprint for our own human design. Like every human being has a blueprint for their journey in life, and that human design is a chart that denotes. It uses the I Ching, Kabbalah, astrology, and the chakras. I think is that so. It uses those 4 technologies and combines them to really show us what's activated in us as far as shadows or gifts that we can move through and work through in our life. I feel like it helps simplify the work that we do on ourselves, right? Because at least it points us to ideas of what to look at. And then we know that's part of our journey to heal that shadow aspect. And I really don't feel like I love the way it's explained in human design, because it really is a shadow. There's energy, like every molecule in our body is just energy. And energy has a positive and negative charge to it. And that negative charge is our shadow, and the positive charge is the gift. And we just move through that energy to the other end of it. It's not like we have to get rid of it, right? So I like the way human design puts it out there. I don't know that I was excited finding out I was a reflector.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same. Part of me was like, I knew I was different. I knew I was special. And then another part of me is like, why me? But at the same time, there's a good and the not good, but it's all about how you look at it and your perspective too. Because part of me, I like that I can just go with the flow, and my we don't have an authority because we're as a reflector. So there's 5 types, like projectors, manifestors, manifesting generators, and reflectors. And reflectors, there's supposedly 1% to 2% of the population of the world are reflectors. And so there's like 1 reflector per 500 generators. I mean, I don't know the exact thing, but I know that like on Facebook, there's, reflector communities, and then there's like 300 reflector women community, right? And then like if you go to a projector Facebook page or event or page or group, there's like 6,000 projectors. So we're kind of like I like to explain it as like reflectors are the barometer of the community. We are, we sense the health of any community, and we reflect other people's energy. So we might trigger a lot of people because they see themselves in things inside of them that are not healed yet through us, and we kind of pull it out of them. So I'm sure, and at the same time, we also reflect things that work and that are great and that are fun. So we really are like a mirror for a lot of people. So going back to the large events, I can see why you would like being around rooms of people, because on the one hand, you know, we can get drained easily by being around a lot of people sometimes. And then there's the other side of it, of being around a lot of people and cycling all that, like being around all the different energy. And then we cycle the energy through our own energy. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, but that's kind of what I experience and how I hear it too. Cause, I'm this, like, I love to be around huge groups of people sometimes. And then there are times where I just like need quiet. I need peace. I need like to be alone. If I'm around some trees, even better. So I was just making that connection.
I would say I too have a definite need for my alone time, right? And my nature time, equally
you
as
gotta
being
like
around people. I probably need more downtime than I do people time. I definitely am glad I don't work outside my home office in corporate America. I think that would be too much. I wouldn't want to be going out in the evenings if I did, because I would have had my people fill, right?
Oh, yeah.
I do notice one thing that this last year has done. Since it's limited my connection and community with other people, I notice when I am out around other people how I'm like hyper aware. For instance, my neighbor thanked me for taking her trash out, but said, "I thought you'd forget." And I think because I'm a reflector, other people get their reflection back to them. So being that reflector reminds me that her saying that may not have anything to do with me. Right?
Yeah.
And exactly. And before now, I would have probably taken that personally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, that hurt my feelings that she thinks that about me.
Yeah.
And now I have the knowledge, because I'm a reflector, that she's very down. She's losing her mobility. She's on oxygen now and doesn't get to get out as much as she used to. And so she's realizing the next step's probably going to be assisted living. And she doesn't have a large network of friends that come around and help her. So she doesn't have people she can rely on.
Mm-hmm.
So in her mind, she's all alone and she doesn't think people remember her.
Yeah.
And so when she gets my energy, she just gets it reflected back. I noticed too that you mentioned reflectors are a great representation of the health of the community. They act as a barometer, so to say, to kind of gauge the health in the community. I can tell you that knowing that was what had me say yes to the city council position. When I meditated on it, when I went inward to reflect on, is this a good decision for me? It was definitely a yes because of that knowing. But I'll also say that, reflectors are supposed to wait 28 days, a full lunar cycle, to make their decisions. Well, the mayor had reached out to me the week of Christmas in 2019. And I said yes, like a week earlier than that. I was invited to get sworn in on January 14th, which was like a week too soon. And it's so funny what orchestrated that night. 2 council members voted no, and the rest voted yes. But city clerk announced it as a fail, thinking she needed a unanimous yes vote. And they asked me to leave because I didn't get the vote. And at the elevator, the mayor came out and grabbed me and pulled me into his chambers and said, "This isn't about you. This is about me. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we can revisit this next month or whatever." And I knew driving home that night that just because they said no doesn't mean it's no. Just sleep on it. And there was something just reassuring me, just sleep on it. And I came home and took a hot bath and went to bed feeling confident that I was in, but it was going to come on a different timeline. The mayor called me the next day and said, we just had a meeting and found out the city clerk made an error and you did win the vote. We only needed a majority of those present to win, and you'll be sworn in next week, which then was the 21st, which made it the full lunar cycle.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
was so funny because twice the universe made me wait the lunar cycle.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness.
It was so funny. But to me, that's what my expanded awareness is showing me, the bigger connecting the dots to my life and to how things are moving through and working and what things mean and how they relate to something else I need. So I don't know if that's a reflector thing, but I feel like not being attached to things and not having, we have to view that as a gift. I mean, to me, we have to view that as a gift, having those open energy centers, because we can pick up on other people's energies and allow those to fuel us in the moment as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love talking about human design, and I feel like we could keep going about human design. And I would really love to circle back to self-awareness. And I want to know, what are your top tips? What are your top tips to cultivate self-awareness, especially in this day and age? What are your top tips to cultivate self-awareness?
So I think it really is different for each of us, but it starts with just paying attention, being conscious during our day, being present in the now, and not being so externally focused on the future and what we need to get done today, but being in the task we're in, right? So that we can be more self-aware and present with those experiences. And to me, that alone was my biggest journey, right? Just making certain I was in this now present moment, being present with myself and my day. And, I came from, I feel like the world likes to use labels, right? Like I was labeled obsessive compulsive, type A personality. Maybe these resonate, maybe not, I don't know. But we all know our strengths and our weaknesses. And I feel like during a lot of my life, I'm also a 4/6 profile. And that 6 is real characteristic of having 3 lifespans within our life.
Wow.
That the first one is being really curious, and then the second one is trial and error. And it literally, for me, was seriously trial and error. Like I had 3 DWIs, and I wasn't even a drinker. I mean, how does that happen? That's seriously an unconscious individual.
DUIs, like driving under the influence?
Thank you.
Oh, is that what you're... Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
You were a party
So that's
animal.
and that's what I mean by going through the trial and error mode, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really wasn't a party animal, but I wasn't conscious either.
Yeah, when was this?
That was that middle phase of my life through my 20s and 30s.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I feel like the human design gave me the ability to really forgive myself for those times, to really now have a better understanding of that was part of my journey. Now I understand why I did what I did and why I had to experiment with that, because it was all part of my personal growth and journey. And I think too, it helps us to see others in a different light. I felt like my spiritual growth allowed me to see things differently. I'm a Course in Miracles student, and I've been through 2 of Dr. Joe Dispenza's workshops. When he first started, they were just 3 and 4 day workshops. And now they're up to a week long workshops that he does with people. But I feel like that spiritual growth was the greatest advancement for me, because it really helped me see that everyone's on their own journey and nobody needs fixing, right? I mean, I started learning new words. I'm not broken, right? That was a good thing to know, that I'm not broken and that you're not broken. No one's broken, because then I'm not going to try and fix people. But I think as we grow in our spiritual journey, the first thing we want to do, because we're excited with the growth we're seeing, that we want to share it with other people. And it comes across that we're trying to fix them as we're sharing it. So I had to really pull back my reins and just keep that to myself and find groups that I could connect with, so that I shared it with the right people instead of those that weren't ready to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to share with the right people that are looking for feedback or looking for answers or looking for guidance or something to resonate with, something to have them feel like I'm not crazy or I'm not alone. I have other people who are in the same inquiries as me and who want to learn from the universe and learn about life. So, yeah, that's really important.
You know what's really funny about that, though, is even when people want to know what your journey was, many times they think theirs is the same. Like, oh, you did this, I should do that. And I'm the first one to say, I can tell you what I did, but I can also tell you that I think your journey needs to be your journey. Like, you need to ask yourself what's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
But being present in the now, and I feel like quieting our mind, which would be meditating or mindfulness, right, are probably my top two go-tos for beginning to develop self-awareness. One of the tasks I give the people I work with is the very first week to draw on a piece of paper 2 lines down an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and create 3 columns and label them negative, neutral, and positive. And just notice your thoughts. Over the course of a day, notice when you have a thought that you're giving your attention to. And oftentimes, you know, they'll fill out, I was worried about my mom. I was fretting over something coming up Friday that I have to do for work. And everything was worry, or it was doubt, or it was anxiety. And they started noticing how negative their thoughts were. They weren't thinking positive. They were thinking negative thoughts. And it was fear, and it was worry, and it was disappointment. And it was like, wow. So I feel like that's where it has to start, because you can't fix it if you can't see it. You can't correct it. You can't shift out of that and into something better until you notice it going on for you.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Bringing self-awareness to just how it is and not trying to fix it, change it, run away from it, improve it. How can you improve anything if you don't even know what it is?
Yep.
And, you know, as a human being, you're perfect as you are. And if you want to have life work more effortlessly, then it is helpful to make, you know, quote unquote improvements. But if you have the context of there's nothing wrong here, and let's just be aware that, oh, when I do this thing, it has this impact. So now I'm going to be aware of that. Cool.
Yeah.
Next.
I have a motto that I drill down on students when they come into the learning of it. And it's, you know, our thoughts are the creator of our feelings. How, you know, what we give our thoughts to, what we give our attention to and create thoughts from, creates feelings, which creates emotions, which stimulate action and behavior, right? So that's a process. That's real. Now that you know that, that becomes a structure for you to work with and around. It's almost like you've been given a superpower. Now that you know this, what are you going to do with it? You know, if you really do want to create change in your life and you have ideas of where you want to go, what you want to do, you know how you're going to need to feel to do that. And I'll give you an example. 2019, I was really on a mode every month of bringing in a new practice of something. I noticed that my tools that I was using, we all have tools, right?
Yeah.
And develop skills and tools, and we might outgrow those tools, pick up new ones. But I was noticing I was outgrowing or letting go of old tools pretty regularly. And so I thought that I would challenge myself each month to something new and keep it going for a month. And I decided to meditate for 1 hour every day. And the first day was hard. Like, I must have thought for at least 20 or 30 minutes of that 1 hour, am I almost done yet? Like, how long have I been here? And just the questioning of this hour, right? My eyes are closed. And I realized, okay, that's not going to happen again. My self-awareness and the skills I've developed told me I need to get really excited about this. I need to have this practice work for me. So I'm eager and looking forward to it, because the way that first day ended was not going to be a good, happy 30 days for me. And every single time I do this, and I drop back into, what can I do to get really super excited about this? What can I add to my practice? Or what thoughts can I bring forth? What energy can I stimulate to bring forth some enthusiasm, some excitement? And it was like within moments, I was guided to breath work. And I started looking up Wim Hof, and I started bringing into my hour-long meditation some breath work. And there wasn't one day for the rest of that month that I only meditated an hour. So that shift, that curiosity, that knowing that my thoughts create my feelings, create the emotions. I already knew that was not the best meditation I've ever had. Like, I was in judgment of myself almost the whole time, wondering how much longer. And so creating something or bringing something forward that was going to get me excited, learning something new, developing something greater was all I needed to really excite me. So it's those type of things, I think, that in the beginning, self-awareness is just noticing and staying in our own alignment, with who we are, bouncing back more quickly, practicing that resilience, right? That self-efficacy that we all have. And as we grow in the skill, we begin to see that we can create new structures around our work habits to recall things more quickly, to organize things and file them away within, to recall and pull forth later, to create new structures that begin to work for us along the way. So I feel like self-awareness is that skill that never stops growing in us.
I agree. So beautifully said. Well, what's the last and final thing that you want to leave the Magic Lighthouse audience with? The little treasure that you want to leave with us in our little treasure box through these waves.
I love it. I think it's all about magic, and that we cannot create the magic in our life when we think we know what we're doing, when we're not curious like a child, right? We've got to have the curiosity of a child and the openness to knowing that this universe has the capacity to bring forth any surprise and delight. And just holding that open space for surprises and delights to come my way across my day is where I hold space to invite the magic in. And I'd love all your listeners to hold that space for the magic in their life, to surprise and delight them each and every day with something bigger and bolder than they could have imagined.
That felt really good to hear. Yes, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, all about the magic.
Yes, all about the magic and the surprise and delight. Well, how can people get a hold of you and work with you? Where can they find you?
You can find me at complete-solutionsllc.com, which is my website, or you can send me an email at Donalee, at complete-solutionsllc.com. Or you can find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook. I am at Life Mastery with Donalee. And on LinkedIn, I'm at Donalee Gastreich.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I will also add those links to the show notes so people can easily scroll down and click on them and be taken to your magical pages and connect with you.
I love it.
Thank you so much for sharing your magic with us and being here. And yeah, really, really beautiful, interesting topics. Self-awareness, being present, being curious, meditate. It's as simple as that. It's a simple yet takes time to master, right? Practice.
Yes. And don't expect to see the instant results, but they're already happening. You're just not quite aware of them yet. That skill is still growing in you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, over a couple months, you start seeing quick results.
Would you suggest people taking notes or writing in a journal what they're discovering?
Journaling is spot on. That's how you can measure your growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's through the journaling.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, maybe on another episode we can talk about journaling and further things around. Yay!
I'd love it.
Well, thank you,
Violet.
much.
This was awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. For more guided meditations, soulful conversations, and conscious content launched weekly, please follow the Magic Lighthouse wherever you listen to podcasts. See you next week.